Hello, so I've just started streaming. I'll be streaming for about an hour, but I'll just say off the bat that my internet's had a couple of problems today, so if that keeps playing up, obviously the stream might have to end early, but hopefully it's not a problem. I've never played Fortnite and I have no plans on playing it. So anyway, yeah, this will just be another sort of hour-long Q&A stream. Alright, Peach? So yeah, I think everybody's joining now, because I think generally the notifications send out. That was a funny coincidence. I cut mine last night, but yeah, cut it last night, then had a shower. But yeah, my hair was getting to the length where I didn't like it. You know, where if I put headphones on, as soon as I took the headphones off, my hair would be sticking up. If I put a gas mask on, you know, exact same problem. When I got out of bed in the morning, from whichever bit I'd been laying on my bed, my hair would be sticking up in a weird way. You know, it was all that sort of stuff. So I thought, yeah, I'll cut my hair off again. I've got no new masks on order other than the PBF, which hasn't arrived yet. So I'm not looking forward to any, really. Alright, cheers. Yeah. I'm just going to say to everybody right off the bat, the reason it says read description FAQ is because in the description there's a frequently asked questions list, so lots of the things people ask will be answered in there. So if I spot people who you know, asking things that I've got in the FAQ, I'm just not going to bother answering their comment, because if you read the FAQ you wouldn't be asking those questions. That sounds good, Peach. That's the thing I like with Weapon Collector's videos, where he does lots of the things using hand tools or very basic tools. You know, it's possible to do it in your shed with, you know, basic tools or whatever. Where, you know, that's the problem, like I think we've always chatted about with Rich and that as well. Where with some channels they have such expensive setups. You know, like where people have got, like, you know, these really advanced welders or whatever, very expensive welders, all of you know, all that sort of stuff. So when they do a DIY video, it's pointless for most people because you can't follow it, because unless you've spent 10 grand on all the tools, you're not going to be able to do it. Do you mean like clippers in like scissor kind of things? Like pliers? Well, not pliers. Is that the kind of one you mean, Mike? Assume you don't mean clipper lighters, do you? Ah, hair clippers. Yeah, that makes total sense now. Yeah, I had issues with... Yeah, it makes total sense now. I don't know why. I was thinking when you were saying about clippers, like it was some kind of metal clippers or whatever. Yeah, I bought, was it like Wahl, W-A-H-L, I bought a Wahl clippers, and I had problems with them, like, just after a year, like, you know, when the guarantee ran out, because of course everything always goes wrong just, like, a few days after the guarantee runs out normally. And the issue I had with them was just where, like, they would, like, sometimes they wouldn't turn off and on, and then all of a sudden, you know, they wouldn't turn on. Yeah, I don't know if your hair clippers, maybe it's just be if you've used them for ages that they've got a bit blunt and you can't really resharpen, can you, hair clippers of that kind, so. Funnily enough, my favourite rifle is the FAU, and it's right there in the background. Personally, I wouldn't care about Spydercos, because a lot of Spydercos seem to be very expensive. If you've already got a penknife, that's pretty good. Can you see if you can get a knife like this maybe? I don't know what you really want, but something like this is legal carry, and it's more of a knife than a Swiss Army knife. But... and, I mean, they're totally legal to own if it's under 3 inches non-locking. Yeah, I've got some cartridge belt kind of things. I think I've done videos on them. I don't have loads of things like that, but when I've done airsoft, I've used, you know, I buy actual ones for real magazines, not the overpriced airsoft stuff. Well, these ones are sold under quite a few different brand names, because Weapon Collector's got a video on one that looks identical to this, but just with a different name on it, or it doesn't have a name on it. This one's Prometheus. I think you can still get these on Amazon. And they were like one of the top selling UK knives on Amazon. Yeah, that's cool. Depends. Some things about living in the UK are alright, some things aren't very good. Depends. Like most countries, really. Some bits are good, some bits are bad. No, I've not heard of them. I mean, if I look them up, I might have actually seen a load of knives like that, but off the top of my head, no. Also, for the people who have been on some of the other streams, where I mentioned it, I did cave in and buy the watch today I wanted to get. So I bought a Orient, which is a brand owned by Seiko, and it's meant to be just as good as Seiko watches. It's a dive watch called the bloody hell, I can't even remember its name now. Look it up. The Mako 2, that's it. Because they do two types of dive watches under the Orient name, as far as I'm aware. There's one's called the Mako, and the other's called the Ray. And as far as I'm aware, the only difference is the Mako has some of the numbers actually has numbers on it, whereas the Ray's got them all just as, you know, like the not even Roman numerals, but, you know, just like the little dashes on the watch. So yeah, like with my Seiko I've got on at the moment, if this was the Ray, this wouldn't have numbers around the outside. It would just be, you know, like that, where you've got the almost like notches or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, I've got that. I bought the one with the entire blue face and blue bezel, because the problem was I was quite tempted to get the Pepsi bezel, because I've always liked the look of those. But the issue is that because it's a count up bezel, not a count down bezel, it seems silly to have the first 15 minutes of the bezel being red. Like, if it was a countdown bezel, having the last 15 or 20 minutes red makes total sense. But when it's a count up bezel, to me it doesn't, because why would you have the bit that's the first bit, not the last bit of your, like, countdown thing, you know, being red? Doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I've gone for that in blue, because I think it looks nice having something that looks pretty uniform with the entire watch. So I'm hoping that will be delivered very early next week, and then I'll do some videos on that. But I'm quite looking forward to having like a really good analog watch again for daily use. Right, let me go up a bit and try and catch any of the things I've missed. No, I'm not going to stream Battle Royale games for because I have no interest in them, basically. No, I wouldn't want to live in London. I don't like big urban places, and London is an incredibly expensive city to live in. I had a G-Shock, not the G-Shock, but I had one of the Casio solar watches, and as I was saying in the last stream, the issue with that was, literally, like, I think a week or two after the year's warranty ran out, it went wrong. And I could either pay to have it repaired, and I don't even know how much that would cost, but it would be, you know, like, at least half the price of buying a new watch of a similar type. So I could do that, or I could attempt to fix it myself by buying a new rechargeable battery for it, in case the rechargeable battery is the problem. But again, that's like 20 to 30 quid for the rechargeable batteries they take. Then if I fit a new battery to it and then it turns out that's not the problem, I've just wasted like 20 to 30 quid and might not even be able to repair it myself. So I've got no interest really trying to fix that watch, as much as I liked it when it worked. You know, I get quite suspicious of brands when something goes wrong just after a year, because although it could be, you know, a complete coincidence, I sometimes think it's that engineered to fail stuff. I've done a video of the Bokken, but it's not live yet, where I'm sparring with it in a spear. Maybe a French M51 T55, as they're pretty cheap. And they're an interesting looking mask. That's a German filter, Keter Wolf. If it's from 1974, personally I wouldn't use it, because even if it was a perfectly safe filter, you know, at that age there's a risk that the charcoal and everything could be leaking out and the filter's not going to work if it's that old. Favourite Soviet song? Probably Farewell to Slavianka. Favourite tanks? Probably a T-72. Either a T-55 or T-72, because I like mass-produced tanks. Right, Peach, Rich and Mike, if you can all keep an eye on the comments, because I've had to block a couple of people so far who've been pointing like stupid political things or just making stupid comments. So because I've got 3 mods on, I don't think I'll have a problem. Or 4 mods even, maybe. 3 mods? Yeah, 3 mods. Yeah, cheers Mike. But yeah, I just thought I'll say to all you lot, because you're all on there at the moment, that if you can just keep an eye on the comments. Because probably Germany sold the Leopard 2 to so many countries, but then the thing is though, hasn't Germany run into lots of problems now where they sold too many of their Leopard 2s and now they're desperately trying to buy them back and like re-retrofit them and everything else, because they just sold too many of their tanks for short-term like profit, then forgot, you know, oh, we actually need those tanks. No, because otherwise I'll start probably getting copyright strikes if I put music on in the background, and then I don't want to go through all the trouble of that, even if it's not something that's got copyright on, because the YouTube copyright system's so broken. Well, this is the thing, it literally says in the FAQ to people, don't discuss politics or religion or anything like that. Sometimes it'll get brought up. If I'm the one bringing it up, it doesn't really matter because I'm doing the stream, so if it's a subject I want to talk about, we can talk about it. Generally, I'll just try and politely tell people not to talk about it, but you can tell with some people there's very malicious or loaded reasons they want to talk about certain political things. No idea how you could convince your parents to buy you a knife. If they don't want to buy you one and you're not 18, then that's their choice, isn't it? Oh yeah, and as usual, if you try and do ban evasion, that's a ban for obvious reasons. I'm assuming with the universe being absolutely massive, a random confused parrot, maybe even infinite, I don't know because I'm not a scientist, somewhere out there there's going to be life, but I'm assuming the aliens either haven't found us yet, because if they had all this space technology where they could find us, they'd have conquered us or we'd have known about it so far. Or if aliens do exist, maybe they want nothing to do with us because they know we're sort of primitive and crazy. I'd love an AK-74 deactivated. Worldwide Arms have a gun in at the moment, but I wouldn't pay nearly 900 quid for it. They've got the Sturmgewehr 57, which was like the Swiss battle rifle from the same generation of the FAU, which is a really ugly looking gun, but I'd want one just because of how ugly it looks. Yeah, that's the problem, Mike, that a lot of people seem to think if they, I guess, because I think some people do legitimately like my videos and aren't trolling, but then they just, you know, they'll do something stupid in the stream, get blocked, and then they immediately make another account and just come straight back on asking the same questions. But yeah, going back to the alien thing, you know, that's my opinion on it. They probably exist, but they either don't know we're here or probably don't want anything to do with us, and I don't blame them for that. Don't think so, Slingshot Warrior. If it's a link, then it's not going to post in the stream. The Tiger was a very good tank for like one-on-one battle with other tanks, but the Tiger was logistically quite a bad tank in terms of, you know, it cost too much to produce, it used too much fuel. They just couldn't make enough Tigers. So, in that sense, no. As I always say, I think the Sherman's one of the best tanks of World War II, just because it could be made in massive numbers, and it was actually a very competent tank for the, you know, mass-produced ability of it. The Japanese Nambu pistol, the one they had in World War II, I know what it is, but I've obviously never shot one or anything, being in the UK. Is that the giant railway cannon, Garrett? Well, it's going to depend where you are, because as I've said before, Callsign Rack, I don't know where actual people are based, so I can't check postage prices to them and everything else, because where I am it's free as far as I'm aware from B-Store to buy FP5 filters for the postage. And there's other sellers that have got them that I think charge a bit less, but then charge postage, so they work out very similar in price. But maybe look for... Did you see my video about putting the O-ring in? And fitting a NATO 40mm on that way, because if you haven't seen that, that might be an easier thing for you to do, because that's possible. Well, as I said, I can't really suggest you other RD40 filters if you're going down the NATO route, because as far as I'm aware, there's not many normalised filters. You've got Polish FP5 filters, and they always end up being cheaper than the Russian modern filters, which aren't normalised, but they're GOST. So I'd advise you just find whatever NATO filter, RD40 filter is within your price range, and then use the sort of washer O-ring trick to get them to fit on the GP5 that way. The video is called, it's one that I uploaded fairly recently. Give me a minute. I said at the start of this stream, but my internet's been playing up a bit since I got in today, after volunteering, so if my internet, you know, cuts out or whatever, or there's certain things I might not be able to do on the stream, hopefully it keeps running alright, but, well, it's in the new YouTube studio thing, isn't it, where I can't see stuff properly because they've changed the layout on everything. Give me a minute and I'll hopefully be able to find it for you. It's called NATO Filters Working on a Soviet GP5, and it was published on the 10th of February. I don't have any Leatherman, so I can't really comment on how good. I've heard like Leatherman multi-tools and that are really good, I've just not got any, so I can't really comment. No, I don't own any guns, do I? Because I'm in the UK. Well, what I didn't mention in that is because in the UK one, well, with the UK at the moment, there's lots of debate over crossbows, so I'm not going to give that more media attention than it deserves. I did mention them in the video though, bows and crossbows. I'm not going to specifically keep saying, by the way, you don't need a license for a crossbow. because, you know, the government wants to restrict them at the moment, so I'm not going to keep bringing that up. Alright, did you want to know my top ones or just some of the ones I own? Well, I've got 5 deactivated guns, so I can just say them. I've got the M1 carbine, I've got the FAL, I've got the Lee Enfield, I've got the PPSH, and I've got the RPK. There we go, there's 5. I like my air rifles as well and everything, but... Ah, you're fast there, Mike. The interesting thing was with that, when I clicked on it, it already had the option of unhiding the user, which is quite interesting. So, before the comment actually disappeared on my screen, I could actually tell that somebody had done it. Any open L's good, really. They're decent knives. It depends what you want, so go for an open L in whatever size you want. I mean, one of the most practical open L's, although it's not a UK legal carry one, is the number 7, because that is a 7cm blade, I think it is, and it's got the lock and collar. So this is a really, you know, practical size open L for pocket use. This is like one of their most commonly sold models, number 7. So if I compare that to a Swiss Army knife, you can see, you know, the blade's quite a bit bigger. So it's actually quite a practical blade on the open L number 7. If you wanted a legal carry open L, there's not loads without modifying, because there's lots of debate over whether or not an open L's collar counts as a locking knife, depending on how you read the legislation. But again, if it's one of those cases of how do you read the legislation, it probably means they can do you if they want to. So, if you want a perfectly legal open L, they do the open L carbon and stainless steel ones with a blade that's under 3 inches. So for UK carry, I like these. This is the carbon, and I've put a patina on it. But there's no locking collar on this one. It's, you can see, riveted, so you can't move that. It's sort of, and not the same collar either. And it's, yeah, it's got the carbon blade. There's no spring or anything in this, so as long as you're cutting against something, it's never going to move backwards. But there's nothing holding it there, you know, you put the slight bit of pressure on it and it will close. But yeah, open L carbons are very good, or the stainless steel version if you prefer. The stainless steel version is probably even cheaper, but these are very cheap. They're probably less than a £5 for one of these. Well, a number 7 wouldn't be UK legal because the blade's over 3 inches regardless, so even if they did it without a locking collar, it's not legal carry. You could still carry it if you had a reason for having it on you, but it's not a legal carry knife even if without the collar, that's what I'm saying. You'd have to go for like a number 5 or whatever it is, for a... Does it say? Yeah, because the this is a number 5 technically, without a locking collar, like this type, the one I showed, the carbon one. Well, the webcam's not going to show that, is it? But yeah. So you'd probably need a number 5 or smaller, and I think on purposely with those, they do versions without the locking collars as like a UK legal one, and for other countries that have rules about, you know, small knives without locks. No, gas masks aren't beard friendly unless you're using like a firefighter style mask with an air tank. Yeah, if you're trying to post links, links won't work full stop on a live stream unless it's a mod posting them. And if you're posting them on regular videos, it could be either just deleting the comments, or it could be putting them under held for review or spam. And because they forced me on, well, I think they forced everyone onto it now, but I opted into it, being stupid. The new YouTube beta thing, lots of the time I can't even access the held for review or spam comments anymore, so a lot of the time, you know, I know that blatantly, you know, because in a day I used to get something like 20 or 30 held for review comments or spams, you know, put together. Now and again I'll click it and I'll get no comments load up, or I'll get 1 or 2 load up for an entire day. So I know for a fact that, you know, there's comments that are just disappearing or I just can't access. No, I don't have a Galil. That's a foul in the background, the rifle you can see there. Non-armoured military vehicle. So I assume you mean ones with no armour whatsoever, so that would discount armoured cars and like anti-aircraft with armour on and stuff like that, yeah? So that's literally just going to be things like Jeeps, isn't it, and Land Rovers. Probably the old Land Rover Defender then, I'd guess, because almost every military vehicle I can think of is armoured to some degree, because you'd want an armoured vehicle if you're in the military, really. Totally depends where you are, what your site rules are and everything like that. Steam Chronic, so I really couldn't tell you. Oh yeah, I suppose things like the, yeah, like the ones for carrying troops and carrying stuff, but I don't really even know much about a lot of the utility trucks because they just don't really interest me. Was it the Alvis Stalwart that they used for ages? I know, that's one of the quite famous ones, but... And there's like the weird things, isn't there? Like the tracked ones like Pinsgauers or whatever they are, which are like the semi-tracked trucks or whatever they are. But yeah, like I said, I can't think of many... Can't think of many things that, you know, well, every gas mask is legal in the UK. The only thing with some is, like, if they're, like, US masks, they're export banned from anywhere that isn't being sold under a US military contract. Yeah, I don't work for the US government, so I'm not doing that. There's not laws on them as such, but I think if you were carrying them in public and you were suspicious, you know, with like things like baseball bats, then you could get in trouble. Like, if you're carrying a baseball bat and you had like an actual ball with it, you know, to use with it. Well, a random confused parrot, if somebody's putting stupid messages in, it doesn't matter if they're donating money or not. If they're breaking the rules, they're not going to get their comment thing, so they're basically just giving away money, aren't they? I have no idea, Peach, because I've never ever had anybody donate before who's trolling, so I don't know, but if you know, if somebody wants to troll and donate money, they can have their comments hidden. If it gives me money, I really don't care, that's quite good. But anyway, as I normally say in a lot of the chats, and I'll just bring it up now, if you see somebody who's trolling, don't reply to them, because you encourage them. So if there are people in the chat that keep talking to people that are trolling, I'll probably just have to block you. Yeah, for the captains, the rarest gas mask in existence, as far as I'm aware, is the US Mickey Mouse mask, because as far as I'm aware, there's not many in existence. Like 2 or 3 or something, and as far as I'm aware, they're all in either private collections or museums at this point, so nobody's ever going to sell it unless they decided they wanted to sell it, and then they'd sell it for a massive amount of money. Yeah, well, I never did archery at a club or anything, but I've done enough archery in the garden, you know, putting the target like 20 odd yards away and shooting it there. I've done archery like in sports hall kind of things with groups of people before a few times, but I said I've never done it as a club thing, because every time I tried to get into it in a club thing, you always had like really dickish people that you do it with who would just put me off. Oh, I don't have any masks that Sid Wilson himself used, but I've got some of the same masks that Sid Wilson then, you know, Sid Wilson bought and then like mutilated basically. Yeah, I'm alright, thanks, Alfie. Well, if I was in World War II and I had to pick a side, I guess America, or like the Allies, because they were the side that won. And they had, you know, better survival rates than the other sides. Yeah, well, any waterproofing works as, me or Richard Weaponsmith Slingshot Warrior, because he's got a very good mace he built. Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Heather. Yeah, I've got a British civilian duty. I know what you mean by rope lighters, but no, I don't have any. There's also those weird kind of crystal hand warmer lighter things that are a thing as well. I don't have any of them, but I've seen videos on them. Because as soon as World War II ended, it was, you know, the West versus communism essentially, so then fascist governments were supported by everybody else. But anyway, like I said, I don't want to keep getting into politics, so I don't want to keep discussing communism versus fascism or whatever else. Cool, my granddad was in World War II. Yeah, I think I even had some videos on this channel of playing War Thunder. I just got bored of it, where they kept, you know, all the power creep, where they kept adding new stuff, and then they kept debalancing the game. I have a M95 as in... well, not an M95, I think it's the M97 it's called, isn't it? If you mean the M95 as in the finished mask that replaced the M61, no, I don't have that, but I've got the other mask that they used alongside that. That one. That's, I think, the M97, without looking it up. But yeah, that's the one that was used alongside the M95. But I don't actually have an M95 itself, no. Right, now I've cut my hair, let's see if this one fits me any better. If you didn't see, this is, in the last stream I did. It's pretty uncomfortable. No, I've not watched any Cobra Kai. Look at my videos on the civilian duty, I'm not getting it out now. Yeah, this is... oh, well, this is a kid's mask peach. It's a size 3 one. Sadly, I've not seen anybody selling size 4s, because otherwise I think it would fit and work well enough. But it's, this... I bought 2 that were in damaged condition for less than 10 quid, and they were posted from Lithuania. Because they're missing the hoses, but otherwise they're perfectly fine, so I wanted to get them as like a restoration project kind of thing, or see if I could modify them in some way. Because, you know, they're already damaged, I don't mind kind of messing about with them, taking them apart or whatever, so... If you want to donate, you can do it either via Patreon below, or you can do it for a YouTube Super Chat, cheers, if you'd like to, but nobody's forced to donate. I've never even seen The Karate Kid or any of the sequels to it. But yeah, that's a PDF mask, it's called Peach. There's variants. I think it's technically the PDFD. But if you look at Soviet PDF masks, there's like loads of generations of them because they produced it for such a long time period. That, you know, they did some with valves in different places. And stuff like that. Well, EOs are the names for Soviet filters. EO14 is the green kind of one that's rectangular. I suppose it doesn't have to be green, but it's like the rectangular. It looks like the old British World War II filters, World War I filters, the box respirator style filters. The EO16 is the same as the EO65K, it's the coffee can filter. In terms of practicality, they're going to be pretty similar, but they're just of a different design. Right, cheers, Mask Collector. But yeah, if you want to see videos on things like the civilian duty mask and all those, just search on my channel for them. Just because of a lot of masks, I don't have them all stored in this room, so I can't get them out and, you know, show them easily when I'm doing a video or a stream. Favourite apocalyptic movie? That's a good question. I have to have a think about that. Probably Mad Max 2, I'd guess. But you can't post any links, not because I don't want you to post the link, it's just you can't post it because YouTube will just delete your comment instantly. The favourite crossbow out of all the ones I have, my opinion changes on this, but probably currently my Jandao Chasewind, now I've got a good scope on it. I've got a really nice compound bow that Blades and Bows sent me, but the problem with that is that it's such a high draw weight and it's so powerful, I don't like shooting it in my garden because, you know, that bolt is going to go like 200 odd yards. No, I don't have any dispatch rider gear. No, I don't have that mask, so I can't really comment on it, but with some masks it's just because they made them to a low budget or they didn't do a lot of R&D into the materials in it. The FP5 filter literally just screws into a GP5, if that's what you're asking. In terms of putting on a GP5, you literally just stretch it and pull it over your head. There's not any straps or anything. As long as you dry it properly after cleaning it, it's not going to rust. I like the Book of Eli. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed it because it's more of an action film, isn't it? So it's not a film you take too seriously, so I actually enjoyed the Book of Eli. Yep, I've done videos demonstrating the surplus masks. They're only not airtight if there's a ripple or anything that's developed in them. Right, I can search that, hang on. Although it's one where they've just put loads of buzzwords on it, isn't it? So it's probably not going to be... Yeah, that's the Finnish M95. Yes, that's the mask I was thinking of, but no, I don't have that mask. That's what I was saying, I've got the M97. As far as I'm aware, that's called the M97 anyway. Which was the other mask. You know, it's like almost the same mask, it's just that one was made in a panoramic lens, the other one was made with the two eye holes. Because the surplus market for that isn't very big. A load of people talking about masks on YouTube isn't a big market. There's a few people that keep saying they're going to like print them and sell them in big numbers for the surplus community, and they've never come through with it and done it. Yeah, I think they banned some of them escape room things, didn't they, or in certain places, or they've made the rules much stricter on them, because didn't they have a load of people burned to death in one somewhere? Because they didn't have good enough fire escapes, or if people are chained up, they can't get out, can they, if there's a fire? I don't know what you're on about, Mr. Awesomeness. Well, I played lots of things like Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2 when I was young and that, or growing up, depends which games we're on about. And lots of them had gas masks in and all that kind of stuff, so that got me sort of into them. And one of the reasons I've said quite a few times, the reasons I collect the surplus masks, is buying surplus masks, at least in the UK, is very cheap, whereas some other bits of surplus are quite expensive. So depending on what you're buying, at least the masks are cheap. Whereas, you know, buying things like deactivated rifles, for example, for the price of something like that FAL, I could buy, you know, probably 10 plus gas masks. Yeah, I've got Full Metal Jacket. I've got most of Stanley Kubrick's films on Blu-ray. Read the FAQ, Darth. Throwing spears or javelins might be good, but they seem a bit pointless if you've got like crossbows or whatever else. Because generally most cultures that use javelins were before, you know, bows were made to a decent standard, and obviously before muskets and everything else. They're obviously still very useful in certain contexts, but you know, for the most part, I think they're sort of a bit outdated now. I mean, obviously having a set of like manoeuvrable lightweight spears that could also be thrown would be good, but now I don't mind surplus places as long as they're not claiming it's genuine surplus. Selling some reproduction stuff, because some reproduction stuff can be pretty good, and if you know you're buying reproduction stuff, it's not a problem. But yeah, I'd agree in the sense that it's a bit annoying if you're looking for surplus and then you can't find the genuine stuff. But you know, I'm all for reproductions of like the rarer stuff, as long as you know it's a reproduction, especially when it comes to like camo patterns and things like that, because it's like with Rhodesian bushstroke, there's barely brushstroke, sorry. There's not that much of that floating about, and a lot of it's faded. You know, a lot of people really like it as a camo pattern, so now there's companies that are reproducing it from the original prints, so you can get really good combat gear with it on again. Read the description, Darth. Well, it depends, doesn't it? Because it depends, are you talking about ranged use or close-up use? If you're right next to somebody, having a shield and a mace is better than having a crossbow. If you're behind a fortification or at a distance, a crossbow is better. No, but I don't watch any like superhero films, to be honest. I've just got no interest in them. I get asked all the time by people, have you seen the latest Marvel film, have you seen the latest DC film? It just does not interest me. Yeah, exactly, Peach. I've got no interest. If people paid me to watch the trailers, I might do. I've heard of that, Mike, but where have I heard that from? Is it on like Netflix or Amazon Prime or something? Yeah, I've done videos on that, Mr. Awesomeness, where I've talked about that, and they're quite popular videos I've done, although then some people start trying to say, no, they can't make actors wear a filter in a movie, or you don't need a filter on a gas mask for it to work. But yeah. It seems strange to me sometimes they'll go to all the effort having people with all the gear on, and then they'll do stupid things like not have a filter on or something like that. No, the last Spider-Man film I've seen is the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, because I like Sam Raimi's films. So I've seen the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, but I'd watch them just because it's a Sam Raimi one, you know, and it's a Tobey Maguire in. I like those three. I've heard of Howl's Labyrinth, I've not seen it. I just got a message, I need to check in case it's anything related to this. Yeah, that's fine, Mike. If you want to do any of the things you want to do, just go ahead and do it. Sorry, I'm just having a look through some of the comments in case there's anything I've missed. No, I've not seen Frankenstein's Army, but I know it's got like a guy on. Is it on the poster for that has like the British Mark IV or Mark V mask or something of like two hoses coming out of it? I very rarely eat tacos, to be honest. I'm sure if I had some really well done tacos, I'd really like them, but because I've barely eaten them, and I've never had any decent ones, not really, but that's not like, either I like them or I don't, it's just because I've never really tried good tacos, I can't really comment. I think that was £195 pounds. Because they've not changed much in price, I guess, because they've been so mass produced. Like, AKs don't go up or down too much on the deactivation market. Again, same with burritos. Never really had decent ones, so I can't comment on how much I'd like them or not. Well, I really like the FM12 or CT12, but there's quite a few good side filter 40mm masks. Well, that's interesting, a random confused parrot, but I don't know why you keep bringing up all these political things when you've been told not to. And as I said before, read the FAQ to people. If people keep asking things that are in the FAQ over and over again, I'm not going to answer them. So, do you mean, would I prefer to not listen to music for 10 years, or not play a game for 10 years? I'd say probably not listen to music, but then does that mean the games don't have music in the soundtracks for the games either? Like, I know you couldn't listen to the soundtrack separately, but that's the thing, if you're playing the games, there's just no music in the game. Because then that's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because I think if you played a game and the games couldn't have soundtracks either, even when you played the game, I'd probably prefer to not play any games and just listen to music. Because at the moment I don't play all that many games actually anymore anyway. I normally, because I think some new releases have just been terrible. I mostly, if I play games, I play older games, or I listen to podcasts, watch movies, that kind of thing. Tomahawks are interesting, but when I watched a, what's his name? I watched loads of his videos and I can't think of his name. Oh, Paul Harrell, that's it, Paul Harrell, isn't it? When I watched Paul Harrell's videos, he actually did one at one point with like throwing knives versus tomahawks, and weirdly enough the throwing knives always went further into what he was throwing than the tomahawks did. Yeah, Paul Harrell, yeah, you thought of it, Mike, you read my mind. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're in close quarter combat, a tomahawk would be better for fighting than a knife, but for throwing, the knives seem better. So I'd say I'd still probably prefer the knives, just because they can do both things to a better degree. Well, everything I've got, mate, is totally legal. So, that's alright, Peach. I don't mind that person making the comment, but yeah, everything I've got is totally legal, so it doesn't matter, does it? Yeah, I've got quite a few lighters in my collection. I've got 2 Zippos. I've got the brass, like, plated Zippo, or the one that's totally brass, as well as the regular, sort of generic Zippos. Well, Switchblade you can't actually legally buy, as far as I'm aware, in the UK. So I'd say big old commando knives, because I can just legally own them, buy them and everything. But, you know, it's personal preference. If you're somewhere where you could get both, maybe I'd have a bit more of an interest in Switchblades, but generally, if you're in somewhere like the UK, where, you know, something's totally banned or whatever, that like, I don't have much interest in them. I mean, I find firearms interesting, but that's because they're a big part of history, but... Well, out of all of them, the Thompson or Tommy gun is the highest quality of all of them. The problem with the Tommy gun was, obviously, the production costs were too high. They were too slow to manufacture and they cost too much. The Sten and Grease gun were dirt cheap to manufacture. You know, so logistically they were very good guns. I'd say out of all of them, the Grease gun is probably the best in terms of, you know, it was very cheap to make and it was actually not of an awful quality. However, if I could pick any, you know, sort of gun from World War II, I'd say the PPS-43, because that was the, like, really mass-produced Russian cheap submachine gun, even cheaper than the PPS-H41, but it was actually of a decent quality. You know, they found a very good balance between something you could make really, really quickly and cheaply, but, you know, was actually of a decent quality. Oh, I'm sure lots of people find it weird, but I don't care, because it's my hobby. You know, lots of people do really other boring things, so it doesn't bother me. They are entitled to their hobbies, I'm entitled to mine. As I've said before, I've got no interest in Battle Royale games. If you enjoy Fortnite and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds and all those, good for you. I personally have no interest in them, so, you know, I'm not going to play them. Right, glad you enjoy my videos. Did you ask for a crossbow recommendation earlier? Sorry, because there was a load of comments I was trying to reply to all at once. Personally, what I do if you're getting into crossbows, is, because you don't have to spend a lot this way, and if you don't know if you'll like them or not, go for like one of the Mankung or like Polang crossbows, like the mass-produced Chinese or Taiwan crossbows. Get one that's of a decent quality, most of them are. Don't go for something too high in draw weight, always go for a recurve for your first crossbow. So go for something, I'd say, £100 draw weight or under. You can probably get one of that for like $50 or pounds at this point. And, you know, then see if you like it. If you don't like it, then obviously you don't get any more crossbows. If you like it, then you can start working out what you like more with certain crossbows. Most rubber NBC suits, as far as I'm aware, a Random Confused Parrot, are kind of fire retardant. Because obviously the rubber isn't going to catch fire in a sense, or at least it would have to get very hot before the rubber starts to burn or catch fire. But yeah, I'm sure there are NBC suits and that are properly like fire retardant everything, or there are fire retardant suits that would act as NBC suits, but as far as I'm aware, most are kind of a bit of each, or, you know, some are a bit of each. I've been streaming for 53 minutes and 30 seconds. If you hover over the beginning of the video, it'll tell you that. Because I wanted to do a parody. You know, a parody is a parody. Because those videos are everywhere on YouTube and loads of people watch them, so why wouldn't I make a gas mask theme parody of it? Well, basically, all I'm going to say is if something's legal and it's within the law, you can get it. If not, I'm not going to give people any advice on how to get it or not. Yeah, it is a shame, isn't it, Slingshot Warrior? I've got the closing down sale bookmarked in case I spot anything in there I want to get. But the thing is, I was saying to Mike earlier on his video comments, because I've just got so many knives, machetes, swords, you know, all that sort of stuff at the moment. There's lots of stuff that's good price, but there's nothing that's jumped out at me as anything I actually need, you know. So if I spot something I think will be good, I'll get one. But what I have done, though, is I've linked a lot of my friends to the closing down sale, and I've said to them, you know, if you're thinking of getting any of these things, just get them now while they're on sale, you know, support a good business. What's my favourite vacation spot? It'd be somewhere in America. Although it wouldn't be my favourite state to visit in terms of, like, climate and anything. Maybe Arizona, just for how, you know, like, much stuff you can do in Arizona while you're on holiday. Yeah, I've been to Germany and I've been to Austria. When I went to Germany, though, a couple of years ago, it was to, trying to remember the name of it. Bavaria? I'm pretty sure it was Bavaria. The bit that's near Austria. I don't think tear gas would work against zombies. I think you'd have to use Molotovs on zombies, because tear gas, if zombies are dead and I mean, even if you assume zombies are breathe, I don't think tear gas is going to affect them, you know, where anything other than the headshot wouldn't affect them. Well, only the deactivated guns and air rifles. I don't own any firearms, and I don't plan to own any firearms. Only really on firearms to an extent, in terms of restrictions. They have lots of very weird restrictions on some things, but like, for example, with some swords, like the katana, I've got a katana back there, you can get hand-forged katanas, they're fine, but you can't get factory-produced steel katanas, but you can get factory-produced steel machetes and lots of other swords. So, lots of the laws are very strange like that, with regards to knives and swords. Lots of them are done on knee-jerk, you know, political reactions. You know, where they'll, something will happen that will be in the news, and then the politicians will try and ban something, even if it doesn't, you know, relate to a problem or anything else. Well, when I was in Germany, everybody could pretty much speak English, even though I can actually speak very bad basic German. So I'd say to people, mein Deutsch ist nicht gut, sprechen Sie English? And if they said, ja, then we'd say, you know, or they'd say yes, and we could speak English. If they said nein, I'd attempt to speak to them in German. But I wasn't over there all that long, because it was a holiday where I was in, you know, like a city or whatever for a couple of days, then on to the next place. That was the one where I did Germany, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Austria, and then back to Germany again. Oh, you'll beat me to the punchline before I even read the comment. I've never been into PCP air rifles, so I probably couldn't recommend them. One of my friends, well, two of my friends have got PCP rifles. Both of them seem pretty good, but I don't know, I didn't like shooting PCP rifles, because as much as I can understand why some people would really like them, for me, the two reasons I don't like them, one of these is kind of a benefit, but it's just something I personally don't like. So the one that's the thing that I definitely don't like about PCP rifles is you either have to keep getting an air tank filled up for them, or you need to buy like a very specialised pump for them to fill them up. PCP is pre-charged pneumatic, so it's like a gun that has its own air reservoir in the gun. So the reason I don't like that is I like the idea of, even if it's slower to shoot, you know, a rifle where you cock the rifle on its own, so it's not reliant on an outside source of energy, you know. Yeah, I think some models do, but sadly I've never seen some for sales. But yeah, if you could get a PCP rifle that you could keep pumping up on the gun, you know, so you could quickly pump it for a single shot, or you could keep pumping up the air reservoir and then get like 30 shots out of it or something. If we had to pump up again, that'd be perfect, but sadly I'm not seeing any like that. So yeah, my main complaint with PCP rifles is obviously, you know, the problem of, so I was just seeing if I could check something on the YouTube thing at the moment. So yeah, that's my main complaint anyway. Sorry, I'm getting a bit confused at the moment. Let me go back to what I was saying. So yeah, my main complaint is with PCPs that they're not independent things. You know, that you need to buy a separate pump for them or an air tank, and you have to keep paying to have that filled up to use the PCP. My second thing, and for some people this will be a pro, but I found it really weird shooting a PCP when I'm used to regular rifles. Because there's no recoil, it feels like you haven't shot the rifle. And I find that's hard if you're squeezing the trigger to know exactly when it shoots, you know, when there's no recoil, especially if you've got a suppressed PCP that's very quiet when you shoot it. I actually like, even if it's what some people wouldn't, you know, some people might think it's better, but I personally like the fact that air rifles recoil when you shoot them. You know, so because you get a bit of feedback from shooting it. But, you know, some people might like the fact there's no recoil on a PCP. I imagine if you're somebody with arthritis or something, or a bad shoulder, shooting a rifle with literally no recoil would be brilliant. But, and the thing was as well, because my friend didn't have a PCP with one of those like repeater kind of magazine things in it, you know, like with the revolver kind of things, because it was one that you had to pull the bolt back and load a new round in every time, I thought that defeated the object a bit of having a PCP rifle. Because I thought, you know, at that stage, if you're having to, you know, pull a bolt back, load a new pellet in, slide the bolt forwards, why not just get a break barrel? I mean, I know he does it because he uses a 177 PCP for like competition shooting kind of thing, so he wants something that's really accurate and all that. But for me, you know, if you're going to all that effort, I'd rather just get a really good Springer or something. I'm sure American food is tasty because I like really greasy, you know, fatty foods. And I know America has got lots and lots of fast food, so I'm sure I'd love American food. I know they've got more traditional good foods as well, but, you know, I'm sure I could get on with American fast food. Yeah, again, I think it's something you get used to, wouldn't it, Mike, if you shot PCP enough. But for me, I didn't like it because I couldn't work out the exact moment, you know, the shot would happen when pulling the trigger. So, you know, when my mate, this is the funny thing, he has 2 air rifles. He's got a really accurate 177 PCP that, you know, you load in around via the bolt, and he's got a scope, a really high quality scope, perfectly zeroed on it. And he's also got, you know, an air rifle with iron sights, which is a cheaper Springer. And I could do better with his Springer because I could work out from the trigger pull more easily when it would shoot, even though it was a cheaper gun that shouldn't be as good. You know, and with the iron sights and everything, I could just hit targets more often with his Springer. And I'm sure if I used it enough and everything else, you know, I would get more used to the PCP. But for me, I just prefer, you know, the Springers. And especially if you had the money, you know, you could buy a really nice, is it Weihrauch, whatever they're called? The really high quality German Springers that, you know, are very accurate for being Springers, very, very competently put together air rifles. I've never watched The Walking Dead. I know what it is and everything, but I've just had no interest in it. I prefer, like, standalone zombie films or whatever, not long-running TV series. What do you mean, like World War II Japanese guns? A lot of them are quite poorly designed. Some of them are interesting, but well, if you're on about a scenario where it's like some sort of post-apocalypse thing and everybody had to have NBC suits on, then I guess a break barrel pistol would work. But the thing is, in the UK, and I know this isn't the same for all countries, so again, it's going to depend on your laws in your country, but I can only speak for the UK. Our air pistols are limited to 6 foot-pounds of energy, and a lot of the break barrel air pistols are even weaker than that. So if you were shooting somebody at a distance and they had like NBC gear on, I don't actually think there'd be enough energy at a distance to accurately hit them and pierce the NBC gear. Because NBC gear is designed so it's not going to rip easily. You know, it'd be completely useless if you had an NBC suit on and then you walked against a branch or something slightly sharp and it ripped. You know, it's designed to be thick, quite long-lasting material. So I think you'd actually need a pellet going at quite a high velocity to pierce an NBC suit. I think a 12 foot-pound air rifle would do it, but I don't think a 6 or under foot-pound air pistol at a distance would do it. They have quite a professional small military, don't they? Japan now. I know they're expanding it, but from what I understand, the Japanese military that exists at the moment is very professional and good, but I don't know too much about it, to be honest. Well, are we on about, like, size of the military and everything? And are they already on the Hawaiian Islands? Because if you had, like, all of the Red Army of World War II versus all the Wehrmacht on one place at once, then the Red Army would just roll over them. If they had to transport themselves there, then I suppose the Kriegsmarine probably had a better navy. But that's where you get into really weird theoreticals, but I'm just going to say Red Army. Shotgun or rifle? Personally, I'd say a rifle is a lot more practical for a lot more things. But if it was just like you could own one for like hunting kind of stuff, I think a shotgun where you could load either slugs or like, you know, buck into it would actually be really practical, maybe more practical than the rifle. So I don't know. I'd say probably just, you know, a rifle like that, but like the SLR. Or something like, for a lot of people, a Ruger 1022 would be very practical, but I don't have any live functioning real firearms, no, because I don't have a license for them. Yeah, but some people haven't been on for all the streams, so if I get asked a question in the stream earlier on, and then people join a bit later, they're not necessarily going to see that. Yeah, like things like the Ruger 1022 I really like. I know people who have owned them and shot them. I haven't shot one myself. I've shot like bolt action 22 long rifles before. So, you know, my opinion on the Ruger 1022, from what I understand from other people, is that it's a really good rifle, because if in the US and places like that, you know, you can buy them very easily for about $300 or whatever. You know, you can easily fit a scope to it if you want to use it with a scope. You can easily buy magazines and lots of aftermarket things if you want to fit them. So, you know, you can easily have a 1022 with like 20 to 30 round magazines. You know, it's accurate enough for what it is. I think Paul Harrell recommends them a lot, and a lot of similar 1020, you know, guns to the 1022, because he says they're very good at beginner or all-round firearms, you know. Unless you specifically need it for big game or, you know, self-defense or whatever, the 1022 is a plinking gun that you can also use to practice. You know, it's very cheap to buy 22 long rifle ammo. It gets you used to using a semi-automatic. The filters are going to be totally relevant to, you know, where you are and what you can get, and that's said, like the thing. I don't know for people outside the UK what filters they can get cheaply or whatever, so, you know. My favourite airgun, well, I've only got 2 airguns and I've damaged one of them. The Crossman Nitro Venom I had was very good. I've still got it, but it's damaged. But I actually prefer Springers, just because the thing is, gas rams, in theory, a gas ram is better than a Springer, right? But the issue is with a gas ram, if something goes wrong with it, more goes wrong with it. It's more expensive to replace parts, it's more complicated to replace parts. And a gas ram can just, I can't click my fingers very well, but, you know, a gas ram can just go wrong just like that, and then the gas ram's dead. And yeah, so if you're in a field of it, it's not very good. So I like Springers just because generally you have more of a warning if a Springer's going to go wrong, like you start losing power with it to start with, you know, before the spring wears out and everything like that. So I'd say Springers are better now. The only Springer I've got at the moment is a BSA Hornet, which is a £100 air rifle, and for a £100 air rifle it's very good. It's got iron sights that, you know, line up properly with it. You know, it's probably at least 10 foot-pounds of energy. But yeah, I'd say if I could get any air rifle I wanted, I'd want one of the really nice wear-out ones, or whatever they're pronounced, wear-outs, either the underlever type one, or just a wire-out with the brake barrel, just because I know they're meant to be very accurate, very comfortable, you know, very good trigger pulls, everything like that. But to be honest, my £100 BSA Hornet, for what I use it for, plinking, at 10, 20 yards, 30 yards, it can plink and, you know, hit things with the iron sights absolutely fine. And it was £100, so you can't really fault it. Is that the World War II game, Heroes and Generals? I think I may have played it before at one point, but not in years. Cool. That's called Dimmy Pop, sorry. If you go, what you need to do, Steel Goldfish, if you're in the UK, type in RD40 filter into eBay, as in Romeo Delta 40, and that will bring you up lots of competitively priced filters. You can find some on there that are well priced, or you can get FP5 filters that are still in date for decent prices. So do that. Both of those will fit fine on an FM12. In the UK you can get black powders that are fully fireable and everything, but again there's still bits with the law where there's different bits with it. The problem is in the UK, with some of these air rifles, is you can't have them delivered to your door without paying, like, for special delivery things. So it's sometimes quite hard, even if the rifles exist, to actually get them. Anyway, I'm going to finish the stream now. Well, the government can be watching my videos for all I care, mate, because I'm not doing anything illegal in them. So, you know, if they want to give me views, they can give me views, the government. But anyway, I'm going to finish the stream here, because I've gone on for over an hour, and I need to go get a drink of water, because my throat's gone quite dry from all the talking. RD40 won't fit on a GP5 unless you do the thing with the washers, because RD40 is the same as NATO. It's just, they're not surplus filters. You can get loads of GOST filters on eBay. The problem is that with GOST filters is that most of them are out of date and all have asbestos in. Yeah, definitely agree with you, Mike. So thanks for having my mods on. This is why I like having multiple mods, because it means I don't have to keep checking the comments as much or, you know, clicking on things. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Well, filters have production dates on them, so if you're buying a filter online, and I'll make this my last comment before I go off, or only ever buy filters if you're spending a lot for them, you know, like buying new filters or whatever, if the seller actually says what the production dates or expiry dates or all that is, otherwise don't buy it, you know. That's what I'll say of that. If you're buying really old surplus filters and you're just buying it for whatever, it doesn't really matter, but if you're buying filters that you want to use, never buy them unless the seller's willing to tell you when the production date is, when the expiry date is, all that sort of stuff. Otherwise, it's pointless. Right, see ya.